Hello, friends, and welcome to Binge O'Clock, the podcast where we watch something and then we talk about it. I'm Joy Selden, and I've seen almost everything.
I'm Danielle, and I've seen almost nothing.
And we're here to talk about all of Galavant because it's our wrap-up episode.
The wrap-up episode! We made it!
I was about to say episode blah, but there is no more episode blah. We've done it. We've watched the whole thing.
And it only took us, well, honestly, it did not take us very long. If I were watching this show, just independent of this podcast, I would for sure have consumed this entire show in a single Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Easily. Single Saturday.
Listeners at home, Danielle has a tendency to sleep late. How early would you stay up into Sunday to finish the show? Because
okay,
what time would you have started it?
How many...
So the first season is 8 episodes.
Remember how Danielle is bad at math? That means Danielle cannot tell you exactly how many hours of TV time that is, but it can't be that many because it's like 3 episodes fit into 1 hour, and there are only 18 episodes altogether.
18 episodes, yeah. What I will say
6
is...
hours, that's nothing.
So, like, yes, it's doable, but you'd have to get up for, like, a work day and then start it and finish it. That's all.
I could start at like 6 p.m. and be done by midnight, which is very normal time.
Well, we'll have to agree to disagree.
Someone out there is listening and being like, Danielle, please do the math. This is like the
why
time
would we?
Where I thought that I could fit 2 45-minute episodes into a single hour of actual time.
I know.
And I was like, oh, wait.
It's like... At that point, you're mixing in the time management issue that I inevitably have. So we're really talking about, like, even if I could do math, which I can't, by the way, I also cannot do math, which is why you never hear me correct Danielle, because why would I? But this is also why I'm just like, it's fine. Whatever the math is, it's fine. We're here to just sort of have some final thoughts about the show. I have some sort of discussion questions we can touch on, but like, let's do the kind of fun things first that we tend to do on our wrap up episodes of like,
okay. Like, what if we talk about our favorite songs for 30 minutes and then we don't have time for your discussion questions? That would be so
which
upsetting.
We have done.
We have fully done off the pod. Start with discussion questions.
Yeah, fair. So you had watched season 1.
Yep.
When it aired. But you had opted not to come back for season 2. Now, having watched season 2, do you like the direction they took it in and or were you expecting something different?
I like the direction they took it in. I think probably my favorite thing about season 2 is that they gave the side characters more room to breathe. Like, it was just less about the A-team because there literally wasn't an A-team anymore. They all got split up. And so the show, while this was frustrating to talk about on a podcast episode, just rotated between the 3 different sets of characters in 3 different locations. And as a result, I feel like we got to know everyone else much better, which is my preference because, as we know, my least favorite character in this show is the title character. So the less time we spend with Galavant, the better, right? I also think that Galavant is improved by his friendship with... Not friendship. It's barely a friendship.
With the buddy movie that happens with Richard. Like,
as soon as he's buddied up with Richard, he's just more palatable. And I don't think it's anything to do with him. It's just that there are most times someone on screen who I enjoy spending time with.
Yeah. And I think the dynamic is also really different too, right? Like you got more, you got a lot more party songs.
Yes.
I say party, not like party like dance party, but like the group party.
Yes, songs. Group party songs. Because even in season 1, when Galavant was traveling with Isabella, they never really let them talk back and forth because they couldn't let the romance advance too quickly, right? So we didn't...
Because if they get together in season 1, what's the point? Even though they did, but like we had to rip them from each other because they got together.
Exactly.
But yeah, I love the dynamic with Richard more because Richard is almost more on par with Galavant, right? Because like I know Richard is a king, but like they both have their fame qualities.
And they also both just bumble about, right?
Right. Like snowballs in the desert.
Like snowballs in the desert. Except they wouldn't bumble very far, would they?
And they like don't. They tend to stop in every single ditch.
Yes. Whenever Isabella is on screen with Galavant, it's like, well, you know, she's so much more capable. She's going to do all the things, right? But with Galavant and Richard, you're right. They're on the same level.
Yeah, they're on the same level. And I think it's also different that you don't have two other characters who are kind of mooning over Galavant the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and not that Isabella did that, but like Sid does that a lot, even though he has his like little snarky one-liners to himself. Mm-hmm. But like for the most part, you know, he idolizes Galavant. And like Isabella did in the beginning too, which then she got to know Galavant and then was like, oh, why did I do that?
Why?
I also think the timeline is weird because she talks about like her father telling her stories about Galavant, like she was some kind of child during this storytelling.
I don't remember that happening.
Yeah, but I don't like line. They didn't like maybe that's just my brain of like I instantly make the person a child when your father is you know what I mean? Like somebody's like, "Oh yeah, my dad used to tell me stories about that." That doesn't mean that you weren't an adult when your father told you stories.
I mean, that's fair.
You know? But like my brain was just like, was she a teenager? Like they're pretty close in age. Like I didn't think there was a big difference.
Mm-hmm. They are pretty close in age. Okay, so that's what I liked about season 2. And so I guess I'm happy I stuck it out because I got
Would you have watched it if I didn't make you for a podcast?
Probably not. Probably not. Not because I have anything against it, but just because I had, you know, watched and then abandoned season 1 and there's just so much TV out there. So in the grand scheme of things, like what would motivate me, I suppose.
Back to it.
Yeah.
What would make you come back to it? Right, like what?
This podcast.
This podcast. So you're welcome, I guess. Since we got to know the side characters a little bit more, who's your favorite when everything's all said and done?
I don't know. I feel like you should go first. Who's your favorite side character?
I mean, how is it not Chef and Gwen? Like,
okay.
For realsies, wait, like for all time.
Who do we count as side? Like, who are not side characters? Like, who? I would say
I would say well, I think we can create a separate category for like guest stars. Having like Kylie Minogue, right? Like Kylie Minogue is not technically a side character. She was literally there for one episode and she did her job very well and then she left.
Guest star. I'm fine with that. But like, let's take Sid. Sid, I think, side character, question mark?
I feel like Sid's closer to main character because Sid's in every single episode and he has lines and like a character arc.
Zero growth. Like literally zero. They knew nothing with him.
He was already perfect when we started.
No, he deserved a little something. I still feel that way about it. I think that going back to your point about characters mooning over and idolizing Galavant, Richard did that too, but it was less. True. It wasn't the only thing that we knew about him. And so it was okay that he was idolizing Galavant and mooning over Galavant, right? Whereas with Sid, that was literally the only thing we knew about him.
Identifying
and then we found out a little about, And then we found out a little bit about his family, but that didn't push the narrative forward in any way. That had nothing to do with the rest of the show.
Yeah, no fair. I mean, you could even consider characters that don't get an arc like what you're talking about, side characters, right?
Yeah.
Because like if they don't grow, then do they really deserve the title of main character? I'm looking at you, Galavant.
Right? Seriously.
Galavant, grew, and then it was like 2 steps forward, 4 steps back. It was like so annoying. Because even rewatching that first season, I was like, remember all this growth we had when you get to Sydneyland? Like, you had all this growth, and then you dropped it like a bad habit as soon as the episode was over.
Okay, so I can't pick Magdalena. Probably. I don't think she counts as a side character. I would say Richard. Don't think I can pick Gareth or Richard.
No, yeah. I mean, Gareth also had growth, though. Bless him. I love the growth Gareth had.
Now I'm struggling to list side characters that are not the Chef and Gwen.
I mean, the Jester is a side character, right? Like,
okay, fine.
you know, there's a few sprinkled in there, not a whole lot. The wedding planner, I would consider a side character. His assistant.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just scrolling gently through my notes. And I'm going to say that by virtue of the utter lack of side characters that are even close to the chef and Gwen, it's got to be the chef. But what if you had to pick between them, Joy? What if... Okay, you know what, Bobby?
No, wait.
Bobby's
No. I can choose. I can choose between them. I can choose between them. I mean, inevitably, it is going to be Chef because we just know more about Chef.
That's very funny because I went with Gwen.
Like, we know some
why?
things, but why?
Because of the Poison song.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? That just put her over the edge.
I was wondering if it was going to be the Poison song for you. I love that she's all of their duets.
And would murder all of the nobles. Yeah, absolutely. She's my favorite character.
I know. I just love how realistic she is. She's so good.
Well, that's exactly it. Like, she's the one where Chef is like, or Vincenzo, I guess we can call him Vincenzo, where Vincenzo is like, oh, we could do this. What if we live together? And she's like, well, you know, like, anyway, her whole thing makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, no, I think it's a solid choice. I mean, like, the only reason I like Chef a little bit more is because Chef is the one who will sort of bend more than she will. And I like that character in like a male counterpart to a female counterpart. I like that he's the one that's like, I'll do whatever it takes to, like, just take you out on a date and show you a nice time. And I'll do whatever it takes to, like, make sure you're comfortable in the life that we plan together. And, like, I love that. I love that that's a dude, like, that's the dude in this relationship where he's just like, yeah, we're poor, but we're happy. And, like, wherever you go, I go. And that's it, you know?
It's funny because we actually got 2 characters in this show who are like that, if not 3, right? Because we have the chef who, hey, you don't like this new life? I'm already packed. So let's go. You know?
He grabs his tiny bag of things.
I'm packed. We got Gareth. Gareth had that moment too, where, you know, if you're not comfortable, let's slow down.
Yeah.
And I think this is a little bit of a stretch, but we have Richard, who honored Magdalena's, quote, vow of chastity. You know, for the entire first year that they were married. Definitely had some boundaries there.
What's funny about that for me is, like, after listening to the soundtrack, like, a couple of times over, since I, like, listened to it over and over again when the show came out, because I did do that. I listened to it a lot when the show came out. But so, like, re-listening to the soundtrack again now to, like, prepare for this episode, I don't know that he did. Because...
Is what?
That he did actually honor her. Like, yes, he said he honored her vow of chastity, but I'm pretty sure their wedding night, he tried, and she came up with a vow of chastity just so that they wouldn't have to manage it.
Yeah, but once she came up with the vow of chastity, I mean, this is the conversation. He honors it. Like, it didn't exist before, and then it existed. He was like, "Yep." I mean, but this is the half jokey conversation between him and Galavant, where he was like, "I mean, like, kidnap a woman and force her to marry you? Absolutely. Anything beyond that? No. I believe in women's rights.
I'm a 13th century man."
So that's why I was like, a little bit of a stretch on that one.
It's a little bit of a stretch. I'll allow it just because I feel like the showrunners really didn't know how to handle Richard. They kept going back and forth of, like, is he a goofball? Is he misunderstood? Is he just constantly questioning his purpose? Is he a tyrant? Is he a genocidal maniac? Like, you can't pin him down. And I think some of that stems from, like, his immaturity and, like, having too much power and too much privilege and just not having a sense of purpose. And just not actually knowing what to do with his power and privilege.
Right, because actually I feel like the answer to every single one of the questions you just asked was, or is, yes. Right?
Yeah.
Like, is he constantly questioning his purpose? Yes. Is he a tyrant? Also yes. Is he a big fan of genocide and war? Also yes. Like, up until the end of the show, right? Yeah. It's just that he grew up, as you said, in this world where everyone was just forced to obey everything he said, regardless of how they felt about him. And then because of his general disposition, he never really sat down and thought about it until it was ripped away from him. And so, if he wanted to go burn all the carrots, he would do that. And if he wanted to go kill a bunch of people, he'd do that too.
I just love how in this way, how you and I, like, we're talking about, but Magdalena would have been perfect for Richard if, like, they would have just found this common ground. But I would like to point out how perfect Richard and Gareth are for, like, the first, 40 some odd years of their life together. Like, isn't it perfect, though? Because, like, Gareth really loves war and, like, also doesn't care that the king is, not a big macho man until it matters and it hurts him, right? Mm-hmm. Like, until the king gets a wife who doesn't respect him. And then he's like, well, I need to tell you about my version of respect, which I think leads really nicely into that song that's on the soundtrack that is not in the show.
It's funny because we started watching this show so long ago that when that song started playing, I was like, wait, was this in the show? I don't remember talking about this, but I remember talking about Gareth's messed up views about what it means
because they
to
kept
be a man.
Pieces of it. Yeah.
Yeah, they kept it in. I guess everything except for the song.
Yeah, what they did is they did those, like, talkie pieces at the beginning and the talkie pieces at the end. For those of you playing the home game on the soundtrack, there's a demo version that is recorded by the actors, which they have another demo that is not recorded by actors. So I guess they never got far enough with that demo. But there's a demo version of a song called Manlyology that Gareth sings to King Richard to tell him about his version of manhood. That's the whole, like, you need to man up, and it's, and the whole toxic masculinity thing.
Want your wife to respect you, you need to do this, right?
And we don't get to see it as an audience in the show. What we get is like tiny snippets of, like, this is what you have to do, Richard. And Richard goes, oh, thank you so much for helping me. And then in the next scene, he's applying what he's learned. But we don't get to see him learn it. The song is him learning it. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was actually pretty funny in the most abstract, ridiculous way because it's so over the top nonsense. That I couldn't help but laugh listening to it on the train this morning I had the same reaction because I was like, I do not remember this song, but we obviously talked about his version of manliness. So what am I even listening right now? And I had to go back to the episode and, like, scan through and be like, no, they didn't do this song.
Do you think that it would have been better if they'd left the song in?
Honestly, I like that we kept Gareth more henchman-y for the first few episodes because in this song, he kind of takes too much charge. And I don't like that for Gareth so early in the show because he's kind of built as this, like, loyal guard dog for Richard. And, like, he doesn't have a lot of personality, but the personality he does have is, like, manly man who has really messed up views about women's bodies and
what it means to be a man.
And what it means to be a man and is very loyal to Richard. And that's it, right? But in the song, you actually hear him, like, almost like a professor teaching Richard. And I was like, that doesn't fit with what we had of Gareth.
Because what episode would that have?
That would have been the Joust episode. That would have been episode 2.
Yeah. Okay. I hear
you know
your
what
point.
I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying it couldn't have worked, but the Gareth we got would have had to been a little different because you can't show, like, even if he's making a joke about it, like, welcome to man college, you know what I mean? Like, you can't make a joke about, like, teaching somebody a thing and not have that capacity within you. Does that make sense? In a way, I like that we didn't get to see it. Right? Like, I like that we didn't get to see how he teaches Richard because that's not really important to his character because it's like he ultimately doesn't care. Like, Gareth doesn't care.
I guess so. And the piece of that is relevant to his character is the fact that his relationship with Richard is not as one-sided as the show initially makes it out to be, right? But we don't know that in episode 2. I think the only reason I could see it working to keep that song in, though ultimately I'm glad that they took it out, is that they still made the same jokes, right?
Right.
So season 2 still had the bits of it that were as off-putting as they were, where we were very much like, all right, 2015, here it is, joke to joke. All right, let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
But weirdly, I think because the song is so over the top, it makes it ridiculous enough that I could have believed the show was pointing to that as a not okay perspective and like a not okay view.
Sure.
Since it was restricted to a couple of jokes, I was like, oh, like, I don't actually know how the writers or showrunners feel about this.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I also think the song is like, not that the song isn't good enough, because I do think it's very catchy and it has like a nice beat to it. And I think the music in it is funny. And like, I just remember listening to it and being like, I enjoy this song. It's weird that it's not in the show, but it's also like done in a Motown style. And it's not, I mean, like, I worry about the, you know, because a lot of the song jokes they make, they're making very specific song jokes about very specific genres and, you know, other tropes that you find in musical theater or that you find in Ren fairs.
Yeah.
Or Disney movies.
Uh-huh.
You know, they're all very, very specific jokes. And then I was like, I don't know if I like how much it sounds like Motown.
Oh, I guess so. I haven't listened to that particular song enough times to pick up on, like, I honestly, Joy, can't even hear it in my head. I don't know what it sounds like. So I didn't listen to that one enough times because I listened to the soundtrack all the way through maybe once or twice. And then after that, had it, quote, on loop, but was very strategically skipping certain songs. And that was far, that was for sure one of the songs that was always skipped. So now I don't know what it sounds like. But that reminds me of the song that was the battle between Isabella and Magdalena, which did something similar. Like, the thing that was most annoying about that song is that they made it into, like, a faux rap battle.
I know.
I was like, oh, what? Why?
I know. I don't know why. You have two very good singers.
Uh-huh.
And this is what you're doing. Like,
let them sing.
What if you let them sing? Like, you could have done, like, a version of the you know, The Boy's Mine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could have done something like that. Like, you could have made it R&B. You could have literally done anything. And they decided to go with hip hop battle.
They'd already done their little tango song. So I guess.
Well, you know, Hamilton had since dropped, I'm pretty sure. So, because I think Hamilton dropped around 2015, 2016.
Okay.
I think. It might have even been a little bit earlier. But I'm saying, like, they might have been trying to ride that wave of stuff, which I'm not agreeing with it. I don't like it because, again, it ends up in places it doesn't need to be. It didn't need to be a hip hop song. Absolutely not.
I even refuse to call it that. That's why I was like, faux rap battle.
I mean, like, it's definitely trying to be that. Like, even the jester has a moment of like, yup, what up, yo, and like steps back. You know what I mean? Like, it's obviously trying to be a hip hop song. It does not succeed.
Nope. It is poorly wrought, but here we are. Okay,
here we are.
Now that we've dunked on two songs, unless there's another song that you want to dunk on, we could turn this on a swivel and talk about songs that we really like. Is there another song you want to dunk on real quick?
Oh, no. Is there a song I want to dunk on real quick?
There's gotta be.
Hang on. There were a couple that I, you know, like, in the interest of like, and then I listened to it again and I was like, this isn't as good as I remember.
Is there, okay.
And I'm trying to, you know what? I'm going to pull up the list.
Scroll through the list.
I'm going to scroll through the list real quick.
Either a song that fits in that category or a song that's like an instant skip for you.
I mean, that's also a great question. I think the She'll Be Mine really weirdly rubbed me the wrong way listening to the soundtrack back again. And I don't know if it's because of the impotence joke they make right at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something about it that I was like, I don't know if we needed that, which is why I'm like, he respected her chastity, I'm sure, after he failed to perform and she made up a story about having chastity. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Right.
weird. It's weird. They didn't know what to do with Richard's character, and it just shows really
No,
badly.
but we've talked about that.
Oh,
a
Stand
lot.
Up. I don't like the
Oh!
montage song.
Yep. I do always skip that one.
That
Okay.
was a surprise because I like it in the show, but on the soundtrack, for some reason, I was like, oh, okay, why?
It's just not as fun.
It's
right?
not as fun.
Like, even
it's not
honestly,
as fun without the visuals.
Speaking of songs I loved when I could see, when, you know, just sort of in the context of the show and when I could see the visuals, I think the pirate song is much less fun on the soundtrack than it is in the show.
I would agree with that. I mean,
Pirate
often
song.
a secret mission, more fun.
More fun.
Because
Actually, more.
they also added some, like, echo, as they're walking through the castle.
Okay, another song I always skip is the song that Xanax sings.
Yeah, fair.
Because I hate him and everything that they did with that character. That's an instant skip right there. I didn't even listen to it once my first time through the soundtrack. I was like, nope, skip.
You still haven't listened to it again. You saw it in the show and then you
I haven't. And I even like barely saw it in the show because every time that was happening in the episode, I just like picked up my phone and tuned out for a second.
Fair. That's fair. That's fair.
I hate all of this.
Yeah, no, the whole Xanax part I don't like. I feel like the Neosporin was trying to make up for the Xanax part.
Neosporin was much better than Xanax was.
Mm-hmm. Has a much more like, I don't know, felt like a much more rounded character than just like, I don't know, a stoner living in his mom's
and also
attic.
not like an appropriated spiritual journey.
Oh, I know.
The viewers can't see the quotes that I put around that, but
they were glorious, listeners.
Okay. Switch. Favorite songs.
Favorite songs. I mean, not to beat a dead horse or whatever, but literally everything Chef and Gwen sing are my favorite songs.
Everything Chef and Gwen sing.
I really love the songs from season 1.
Yes.
Like, I know a lot of the songs we just dunked on were from season 1, but like some of my favorites are in season 1. Like, you know, I know we already talked about the pirate song and the Often a Secret Mission, but I really like the trio songs of like Hero's Journey and
Togetherness song.
Yeah, the Togetherness song, which is like, I have a whole category of songs that sort of turn the thing you think is going to happen on its head. And like, one of that, like, that's one of those. The Comedy Gold is kind of one of those because you would think that Richard would be getting better at comedy because that's the whole point, but he's really not. Right. Like, he's just bad at comedy, which I like, right? Because it's like, maybe he's just bad at comedy, everybody.
Maybe he's just not that funny. You're right. Togetherness says that really well. And every single duet between Galavant and Isabella is basically designed to do that, right? Every duet starts with them saying like, oh, hey, maybe. And then everything takes a turn for a worse.
I know.
But I still like them. Like, I will go back and listen to a good number of their duets. Yeah. The terrible thing, what would be difficult, and I think that the way my brain has to tackle top 3 or top 5 songs is I have to put them in categories.
Sure.
Otherwise, my top 5 songs would just be in no particular order. 5 songs that Richard sings. Just 5 Richard songs, throw them all in there, put them in whatever order you want. Those are my favorites. Like Secret Mission's at the top.
Tad Cooper, Secret Mission.
The one with his inner child. Like, honestly, like the nursery rhyme is not nursery rhyme, but the lullaby.
No, the lullaby
is fantastic. Like so many Richard songs. I'm like, there you go, 5, easy. Yeah. So I have to put them all in one category. Otherwise, like that's it.
Songs Richard sings, top 5. There it is, done and done. Yeah, no, the lullaby is actually a surprise favorite of mine because I'm always like, I always feel like I'm not going to like it. And then I listen to it again and I'm like, oh, but it's really sweet.
It is. It is really sweet. And for some reason, it's oddly genuine, which makes it strange because so much of this show is very, very tongue-in-cheek. But that one moment isn't really, and they don't let it be a tongue-in-cheek moment. Yeah.
I also really like the West Side Story song with the Giants and the Dwarfs.
Me too. See? Songs featuring Richard. All the best songs.
Songs featuring Richard. I know. I like some of the group numbers towards the end where you like check in with everybody, like the penultimate episode or whatever of like, you know, is everybody just before the final whatever happens.
Yeah.
Like, if only for Roberta to be like, to live on an island with a bunch of cats, like, chase around a camera. Like, I like even see those kinds of moments really translate very well to the soundtrack because I could see it in my mind's eye of like her chasing around the camera for this moment. And I thought it was very funny.
Ooh, good ensemble song. The Goodbye song.
Yeah, the Goodbye song is a really good ensemble song. That's also a really good guest that they got to play Death. I looked up his name while I was at work and I have since forgotten. But I
think that is one of my two favorite guest songs. It's really hard for me to pick between that one and Take Off His Shirt. Frankly.
I know. Off with his shirt. Off with his shirt is such a good number, and I hate how catchy it is. I'm just like, I would 100% imagine myself and Marie's Crisis singing that around the piano, Off with his shirt. Like, there's a gentleman who's no longer with us who used to be a waiter at Marie's Crisis, and he would always sing the best songs. And like, I think he sang Ursula's song a bunch of times, and he would sing a bunch of really good numbers, like a song from Jekyll and Hyde, which is basically Take Off with His Shirt, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, I could just imagine him singing that song and probably getting a real kick out of it. But like, it's such a good number. I also really like all of the Wedding Planner songs, all two of them.
All two of them?
But like, I really like the Do song.
The Do song gets stuck in your head. It's so catchy.
Stuck in your head. Like, I can hear it now in my head. Like, it's there. It's just hanging out. But like, I also
that one
like
is way better in the book than his other one. But do you feel like they're more on par?
I like how horrified I was at the wedding he was planning and how good and evil song it was just because I was personally horrified.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's literally just a me thing that I was just like, no, actually, this is horrifying. What a good villain.
That's fair. Ooh, I really like Magdalena's two songs.
Yeah, those are very good.
I can't remember what it's called, but the one where basically she's singing with herself and it's all about how she is the only one that she trusts.
No, I'm pretty sure it's called No One But You.
Okay.
I think it's No One But You.
That's a fantastic song.
Yeah.
I definitely return to that one over and over. Okay, so what I'm hearing is my favorite songs are number one, Richard songs.
Right. In a category all by itself, yeah.
In a category all by itself, Secret Mission is at the top of said category, and the rest of them fill in below with... I agree with you, actually. The second, like, the song he sings in the second episode is close to the bottom of that list.
Yeah.
But still.
Okay. It still makes the list because we still love Richard. For some reason, we still love Richard.
He's just so charming. And it's like, it's a good sounding song if you just sort of ignore the content.
True.
So, number one, that. Number two, ooh, how do I pick? I was like, dude, what's number two? It's in my head, it's either the chef and Gwen. I always mix. Gwen. I say both, just interchangeably.
No, yeah.
But the way it's spelled makes me think it should be Gwen. And then when everyone says it, they say Gwen. And that's why my brain messes it up. But number two, I don't know which I like better, like the ensemble songs or the chef and Gwen duets.
Oh, no.
I'm like, those two are vying for number two right now.
That's fair. I mean, they're your favorite, so I feel weird.
Well, you can weigh in. You've to help with the list.
I could weigh in. I mean, like all of Chef and Gwen's songs, or is there one that sticks out to you? Is it the murder song?
I love the murder song, but I think that's more of a Gwen song than a Chef and Gwen song.
True.
Whereas, like, the song about this, like, new lovely life they've built together is so cute and really is a duet. Mm-hmm. Through and through.
I really enjoy their first song is very classic musical theater. Yeah. And that, like, you know, it's the I Want song, but as a duet, which I thought was super sweet. And then I love the murder song.
Yeah.
But what if we just murdered everybody?
What if we just murdered everyone?
Just a spot of murder. It's fine. And then I really like that the last song is like a lounge lizard number almost. Like you could see like Rat Pack people singing it.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's the Vegas number for some reason in my head. I'm just like, why did we do that? But I guess it's fine.
But I guess it's fine. I guess we like it.
I guess we like it because I will listen to it over and over again.
Wait, which category of song would be your number one?
I mean, I didn't realize how much I enjoyed the ensemble numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really like Oi, What a Night, which I think I even mentioned in that episode. And, like, I really like the pirate song. I really like the democracy song. Like, you know, the ones that don't even include any of the main characters.
They're great.
So those by themselves are like my little category where it's like they're all in there and probably Oi, What a Night is on top.
And those are your favorite category of song?
I think so, yeah. It's just funny because I also like, I mean, I would almost include the West Side Story song in there because it is such an ensemble number. Like, you can't do that song without all the dudes on that field.
Guess. I put that in my Richard category. Wait, no, worst Richard song. Worst song that involves Richard. Finally.
Oh.
In my humble opinion.
Yeah. No, fair.
Is the worst song that is the worst song.
I mean, look, the highlights of that song are the zombies, and that's it.
Yes. The zombies. Who, by the way, listening to the soundtrack again, they do use the Z word in the songs.
Oh, okay. In the songs, but they don't say it?
Probably because when you're singing, you don't really have time for something like almost dead, maybe dead, close to dead, undead.
It's kind of wordy. It is kind of wordy. You only have so much real estate. You can't just drop all those syllables in a song.
But that reminded me. I wanted to say that because I noticed it. And it happens like in the song where Galavant and Isabella are talking about how they're done with adventuring and they want to just live their real life happily ever after. Isabella lists zombies as one of the things that she's over.
I see. I feel like I would count that, though. I feel like that gets counted as you said the Z word. You sang it, but...
Yep. So there. I made a mistake the last time I was talking about
that's
this.
fair.
They did, in fact, say the word, and it's in the songs.
Yeah. Well, friends, we watched a lot of episodes, so...
We did.
We're bound to have some hot takes. I know I had some hot takes about Galavant. Who knew? I'm sure there are some fans out there who are just like, we knew you would have hot takes about Galavant.
I mean, any fan out there who's like in love with Galavant
probably has some hot takes.
Has me to contend with because, oh boy, started and ended this show not liking the title character. It's a rare occurrence, you know?
I also when did we decide that Galavant was just gonna like become a poet?
Right.
Who said that?
Happens at the end. It's like the amulet all over again. Like, what do you mean I'm not a poet? I've been writing poetry this whole time. Like, that's what I do when I'm hanging out by my bedroll. And everyone's like, but wait, I've never seen you write poetry before. It's so weird. I've never seen you recite any.
That whole time that we were like camping together, I never witnessed it.
In fact, I've seen almost no definite proof that you are literate at all.
Yeah, no, that felt really tacked on to me. I do know there's a throwaway line in season 1 where he's like trying to tell Magdalena that he loves her and that he's always thinking about her and he wants them to have their life together and trying to convince her not to stay in the castle, not to be queen. And one of the things he says is like, I always thought we would have a house by the sea and we would raise a bunch of kids and I would just write songs and poems about your beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess is that expression. But, like, that's such a throwaway line, you know?
Yes, like when he said it, like even hearing you describe it now, it doesn't sound like he actually wants to sit down and write poetry. It sounds like the sort of thing you say when you're wooing someone.
Because they were like, also, I know.
People could write poetry about your hair. You know, the person who says that is not going to then write poetry about your hair. Or,
Exactly.
I mean, I guess they could, but...
I mean, I guess they could, but they wouldn't spend the rest of their life doing that. Like, he also mentions farming. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, he mentions doing something. Because her line immediately after that is then, why would I give all this up to raise a bunch of brats and grow my own food? You know, like,
yeah,
she likes stuff. You know, it's just funny because it's like that to me, of all the things, just comes so far out of left field. And I was like, I was not expecting to sit here and be like, this felt lazy. Like, I get that you guys are done adventuring and you're just like, whatever. But, like, maybe just take a vacation by the seaside and then get back to work. I don't know. The show even opens with Galavant as, like, the hero of the small town. And he's, like, hoisted up on someone's shoulders, which I had actually forgotten about. And then I was like, is he, like, also meant to be some kind of small lord of a town somewhere?
Well, but I think that would be so much more fitting, where they, they retire, quote unquote, from a life of adventure, but he becomes just sort of a small town knight, right? And protects his little town and his little piece of land, and that's about it.
That makes sense. That makes way more sense
to me. I would also take him becoming a bartender somewhere, but he didn't appear to enjoy that.
I know. Well, I listened to those lyrics again, and it turns out she put him under a spell to make him bartend. So that makes more sense. But I was like, you needed to have more visual cues in your show that she was even a magic worker to begin with.
Yeah.
Because she kind of just shows up and, like, is there.
I'm here. Sings her fabulous song and then is off stage.
Yeah. Not that I'm mad at it. I'm not mad at it. It's just, it's funny. I think next in the order is probably villain songs, because we get some really good villain songs in the show.
Really good villain songs.
And then, I mean, I love all the songs that are like bad love songs. Like, Love is Strange is such a good bad love song.
World's Best Kiss. Great bad love song. Kiss. The song that begins with Isabella and Galavant, and then Richard and Magdalena join in. Also a great song.
Oh, yeah.
That in my head?
Maybe You're Not the Worst Thing Ever.
Yes.
Yeah. Which I still want to sing somewhere for something, because I actually really adore that song. Because I love... I mean, I think I mentioned this in the episode, so I won't harp on it too much, but I love that trope of, like, you hated each other and now you're kind of getting along, and maybe you kind of like each other, but we're not sure yet. And I love the transition, because it does sound ridiculous when you talk about that trope. It's like, but you hated each other. Why would you suddenly like each other? That makes no sense. That doesn't tend to happen in reality. Like, you hate somebody, you continue to hate them, and either you learn to work with them or you don't, and you do something else. Or
you discover that they're not the worst.
Or maybe they're not the worst, but, like, you don't then you fall in love with them.
Like, slightly miserable with them for the rest of your life.
Yes, because that's the other trope that I like that this show does really well. Because I don't usually like that trope, but I like that this show does it well. Where they're like, how do you know you're in love? You're miserable. That's how you know.
The most functional relationships in this show are relationships where the two characters are not, in fact, miserable together.
Yes, exactly.
Which, Isabella and Isabella's parents, pretty functional relationship. Doesn't really seem to be a love match. I think that it was,
Well, they're probably cousins.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think they were cousins. I think that was a business thing, but they get along fine. They have the same values. Fantastic. Here we are, right?
Yeah. They're great fighters with kitchen supplies. So there's that.
Gwen and Vincenzo have a fantastic relationship, but they are in fact miserable together, not because of their relationship, but because of their
economic status. Yeah. Because they because they're the downstairs people, as Gwen so cherishly says.
Did you have another discussion question that we were supposed to get to?
No, I think we mostly covered it, because I mostly just wanted to hear the and it was sort of on par with what I thought about season 1 versus season 2. I mean, as far as plot goes, I think season 2 is much more spread out, but that makes sense because everybody's spread out. But like,
Everybody's spread out.
In some ways, I actually like the plot from season 2 more than season 1 because how many episodes did we spend where they just kept throwing them back in the dungeon and they kept almost escaping? And the answer is a lot. The answer is like half the season.
Back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Granted, Galavant and Richard spend the entire time just walking toward a kingdom, right?
Yeah.
But they have adventures along the way, so they make an adventure of it. Okay, here's my discussion question then.
Mm-hmm.
My discussion question is, if season 3 happened, where would you have wanted it to go? Given the pieces, the little tidbits that they threw at us
at the end
of season 2. Yeah.
I mean, I would have liked to see the dragon, Richard ride the dragon and fight Magdalena. And again, Gareth 100%. Be like, no,
how do I choose?
Yeah.
And he has to choose between the woman he loves and the man he loves.
I know.
So that aligns perfectly with my vision for season 3, which is
really?
A season with no Galavant.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they set it up perfectly that like if these 2 actors just wanted to retire from the show, they could just live by the sea and just be by the sea and be perfectly happy. And
right.
You don't even necessarily have to mess with Hortensia, even though I love the Hortensians and I think they're great. Like,
wait, you know what would be fantastic?
What would be fantastic?
If they kept Isabella kind of involved, because I like her and I want her still in the show, but they rewrite it so that she's the narrator and she's receiving letters from Sid about the adventures
and reading them to Galavant
so she can replace the jester as the narrator and thusly stay involved.
Oh, I think that's fun. Oh, no, I do like that, though.
That way she's retired and happy and she got what she wanted, but also we get to see her and hear her voice.
I like that. I dig that. I would watch that. I think if they, not that they ever will, because obviously it's been several years, but if they ever came out with a season 3, I would watch it. Or anything else in this universe, because I think it's a fun, I think it's a fun time. I would like to see what they do with it, with more modern circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And see if they can update their jokes a little bit and make them not, so much punch down.
Much like one would do with any show, ideally, that was written in 2015.
Just make your jokes actually funny. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No, that's harsh. But
there were jokes that were funny.
There were jokes that were very funny. There were some jokes that were very much not.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that covers it. There's a few. Is there one more thing you want to talk about? If
you have a few random little things that you meant to mention, toss them all out.
I mean, for anyone who enjoyed Galavant, I highly recommend listening to the complete soundtrack. I listened to it on Spotify. I'm sure it exists on other platforms. It's fun because you get additional edits of the songs that you might not have necessarily caught. And they have, like we mentioned, they have the demos that they didn't originally release, which are also fun, I think.
Yeah.
There's one that's very obviously full of curses that I guess they eventually decided to cut. And I'm just but I love that. I love that you guys decided to go that route. I don't know what the story around it would have been because it was kind of unrecognizable as a song in the show. But I'm glad that it exists. So there's that. And I think there's just I really like the world they built because there's so many subtle, soft little things. I don't know, just even down to the extras. It just seemed like everyone was having a great time to build the whole thing to put together. And it's neat. I enjoy it.
No, I agree. It's it's a fun universe to live in.
Yeah.
It's like a better Neverland.
Yeah, exactly.
Neverland, whatever that land is called. You know what I'm talking about.
Neverland. You could say Neverland.
Is that it? Did we do it?
No, I think that's it.
Are we making a next season announcement, or are we keeping that a surprise?
No, I think we can share
in our
that.
last few minutes.
In our last few minutes, I'm going to share what we're going to do next season.
Drum roll.
So we are going to be actually breaking the mold a little bit and watching a season 1 of a show called The Terror. And it's the show overall is done in a sort of American Horror Story-esque way where the seasons don't tend to line up anyway. So it's not like you're following one story. Season 1 is its own perfect story. It's perfectly encapsulated in season 1. Season 2 is a completely different story. But what they do is they take a historical event and they add a little supernatural touch to it. And the season 1 is the doomed Franklin expedition of 2 ships that went into the polar ice caps and never came out, and everybody died. And it's very famous, and you have Google.
No, hold on. If you have heard literally nothing about this before, and you heard the words Franklin expedition and thought to yourself, I wonder what that is. Actually, don't Google it. Just continue listening to this podcast, and then you will find out.
That's very true. We are going to, Nella's going to be joining us again for this season. And she has reawoken, that's not a word. She is channeling her teenage self in her obsession with doomed polar expeditions. And she has a bunch of history to drop on y'all, which we're going to see if we have another guest star for our history episode. We'll see if the timing lines up.
Suffice to say, guess who didn't do all the research?
Either of us.
Me. Either of us.
That's not our job.
We are sticking to the mold on that one, which is we have the Google in our pockets. We are not using it. Instead, we are going to call our friendly neighborhood Nella.
Yeah. Although, if we eventually get to
this.
Yes. Well, she's already done the research. Why would I do the research again? She's done it for us. She can teach us better than the internet can.
Done. We did it.
But like, if we do end up doing season 2 eventually, which I hope we do, that actually deals with Japanese internment camps. And for that, I am planning on doing a bunch of research.
Yes.
But yeah, so we can also give a historical context for that as well. Because these are real things that happened, and it feels weird to be like, and now we're talking about this ghost or this, monster or this whatever, And then, you got to pay a little respect.
That makes total sense. But on season 1, research done and did. So fantastic. Yes. And as Joy said, since season 1 has nothing to do with season 2, we're not beholden to going into season 2. We can just we're
gonna hit that up whenever the moment feels right.
We'll cross the bridge when we come to it. Yeah. We'll let our whims guide us as we have thus far.
Yes. And I will as a not really a trigger warning per se, but the show is available on Hulu as of right now. It is a horror show. So, just prepare yourself for that, friends, because I know we tend to watch, sci-fi or, comedies or what have you. And it's like, this is horror. This is definitely horror.
I do enjoy that we're sort of taking a hard left from Galavant and Kipo. We've been in that space for a long time. So I'm excited for this. I'm excited for a little bit of
cutesy
horror. I'm excited to go back to what I'm going to call our roots because, we started with a couple of shows that were a little bit grittier, and then we had Fringe, which is people's faces falling off. So, this will be good. I'm excited.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Amazing. Okay. Well, there we go. With that fun announcement, we would love to hear from you. Please check us out at Binge O'Clock Pod on Twitter and Facebook, where you can answer the question, what is your favorite song from Galavant? You can also email us at bingeoclockpod@gmail.com. And don't forget, we have a Patreon. Find us at patreon.com/clockpod.
That's right. And tell your friends, tell your family, tell your loved ones, tell the live lobsters in your life about Binge O'Clock, and we will see you next time.
In season 2, again, Peter, whoa, where did that come from? I guess I was back in Fringe like brain for a second. Galavant and
Peter
Richard.
Bishop is there doing
Peter's
nonsense.
there also.